Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I am Justin Mason, lead fantasy writer and analyst at friendsoffantasybenefits.com. Joining me on this episode is Dave McDonald. How you doing, my friend?
What up? Long time no talk. I'm doing
I
good.
know
How are you?
it's been like 20 minutes. You had to go and put some fab bids in for your Yahoo leagues, apparently.
I did. Yes. Yeah. Basically with all the ILs today with Mats and Albies and I don't know, there's someone else had to go and fill those slots. So get some starting pitching possibly for tomorrow. Maybe Littell, maybe Emerson, Hancock, and then with some position player backups for those.
There you go. We are going to be talking about the upcoming schedule. Obviously, Monday games are already over by the time you're hearing this, but hopefully you can listen to this bright and early on Tuesday to kind of figure out what you want to do for the rest of the week. And then we'll, of course, talk about, maybe some stuff for next week as well. Before we jump into that, remind everybody you can reach Dave on Twitter at RunDMCD.
Add that D.
And you can reach me on Twitter at Justin Mason FWFB and follow Friends of Fantasy Benefits on Twitter at Fantasy Benefits. Make sure you're following the YouTube and the Twitch accounts. That way, when we do go live, you can watch those live. Those are both Justin Mason FWFB. So let's just jump in because this episode tends to take a little while.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about kind of upcoming schedules in terms of pitchers and hitters that you might want to target. Let's start with Baltimore, who has a series, a short series at Chicago again. Oh, sorry, no, not at Chicago. They started a series tonight at San Diego. Got the victory, and then they are going to be going to Oakland. So, what do you like out of Baltimore?
Yeah, so if we're talking, are we going to do starting pitchers first and then go to hitting after? Okay.
Let's do starting pitching first, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously Grayson Rodriguez, who started tonight, or as you're listening to this, it'll be yesterday, did very well. And he was a guy who I liked even against San Diego. Flaherty and Kramer, I don't trust versus San Diego so much. But I do like Kyle Gibson and okay. I don't like Kyle Gibson because I can't predict what Kyle Gibson's going to do. He gets clobbered by bad offenses and then shuts down good offenses. Like, he is one of the most frustrating, and I know this has been your boy in the past.
Yeah,
he is one of the most frustrating pitchers to roster in all of fantasy baseball. So while I say he should be good against Oakland, I don't fucking know, for being honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a crapshoot, but like it's a great park to pitch in. It's this may be I've been saying this is the worst team ever constructed by a major league organization, and I stand by that. So, like, if you're not going to use him here, when are you ever going to use him? Like, I think you just have to kind of roll with him here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to use him, you can use him there, but I wouldn't blame you if you're in a shallow enough league for just skipping it and taking someone else. I honestly, I don't roster Kyle Gibson because I just can't predict him. I do like Cole Irvin on Saturday against Oakland. Obviously Bradish is probably rostered, so that's a good start against Oakland too. But I do like Cole Irvin as a deep league under the radar pickup who should be able to give you a decent shot at a win with some solid ratios. I would say, kind of looking ahead here, most of Boston's rotation is going to be owned at this point. And my question to you is, Cutter Crawford, who do you think Boston removes when Houck returns the following week? Do you think it's Cutter Crawford? Do you think it's the struggling Brian Bayo, or do you think they put Nick Pivetta back into relieving? Because I mean, he's been so good as a bulk / starter. So I don't know.
I mean, to be quite honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they just moved to a 6-man.
They could.
You've got pretty much an entire rotation made of glass at this point. So, like, maybe there's an IL stint coming for someone. Maybe, this is another team that is, like, half-assing their way in the playoff race. Like, they're technically still a part of the playoff race, but are they really? They're fourth in the division. I guess I could see Pivetta going back to kind of that bullpen role. Because I know that Bayo hasn't been as sharp as he was before, but like he's part of your future, and Pavetta's not, Paxton's not, like, but Whitlock and Houck are. So like I would assume that they're going to give the younger guys the opportunity to stay in the rotation and probably move Pivetta out or move to a 6-man. I think they should move to a 6-man person.
Well, Whitlock's going to the pen for now.
Oh, okay. I didn't even see that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they're both. So Whitlock's back, by the way. He pitched in relief tonight. He actually got the win. He pitched 2 innings. So they said that Whitlock's coming back as a reliever and Houck's coming back as a starter, which is a little odd to me. Like I would have definitely moved Whitlock to the rotation, but I disagree with you in that I don't think they can take Pivetta out of the rotation right now. Like he's been one of the better, whatever you want to call them, starting pitchers / bulk relievers in baseball over the last month or so. And I don't know. I don't know if he's figured something out, but he looks really good right now. And I don't know if Bayo's just running out of steam. But my guess is Cutter Crawford's probably going to be the one to leave the rotation first.
Okay.
And then my second bet would be Bayo. I just feel like maybe they want to take it easy on him. I don't know. He just seems like he might be running out of steam a little bit here.
Yeah, definitely could be. I mean, at this point, like, it doesn't really matter, does it? Like, I mean,
no.
Just move anybody out.
Not really. Moving on to the Yankees, Clark Schmidt had a 2-start against Atlanta and Boston. Doesn't get much worse. It doesn't get a whole lot worse than that. So that was an obvious avoid. Severino is a mess. You're not starting him against Atlanta. Randy Vasquez, you're not starting against Atlanta. And then Brito, you're not starting against Boston, in my opinion. I wouldn't start Schmidt against Boston either. So really, you're just starting Garrett Cole this week, and that's pretty much it for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Any disagreement there?
No. I mean, there's very few pitchers I'd even start against Atlanta at this point. So I'm definitely not starting mediocre Yankees. So
Atlanta, Texas, and LA Dodgers. I'm not fucking with those teams unless it's like a top 5 starter. Yeah, even then, I don't love it.
Yeah, exactly. What about the Tampa Bay Rays? We just talked about Zach Littell. I'm rolling him out in my main event.
I would too,
because I have 0 options really.
But it's not a bad option, if we're being honest. Like he definitely gets San Fran on Tuesday when you'll be listening to this. I like that stream a lot. I don't know what the win probabilities are there because it's at San Fran and Littell won't go deep into the game, but I would do it. I would roll it, and you'll probably get good ratios with a shot at a win. But the other thing is they only have 4 pitchers right now. Glasnow is barely healthy. So Littell could easily, with the day off on Thursday, Littell could get a 2-step and start on Sunday against the Angels, which it's a good time to be facing the Angels. They're not at full strength right now. They're not hitting well right now. Even Shohei Ohtani, this is not that he's bad, obviously, but this is like the one time of the season that he has not been pummeling the ball. So if you're going to face the Angels, now's the time. Savali against the Giants, I would roll that as well. The Giants just aren't hitting shit right now.
Mm-hmm.
I love Eflin, so I'd play him against the Angels. And then Glasnow, you got to start too. He's going to get a 2-step against San Fran and LA as well.
Yeah, and Glasnow pitched well in the first half of that 2-step tonight. So, I think he's a pretty easy. Though he did also get bailed out a few times by some amazing defensive plays in the outfield. Rosarena and Margot both had fantastic plays that took extra base hits away from the Giants. But always nice to have good defenders. So what about Toronto? They've got a short early start of the week, only 2 games versus Philly, and then they go to Cincinnati.
Yeah, and you never really want to see your pitchers going to Cincinnati because it's like Coors, but Coors is bad for giving up a lot of hits. Cincinnati is bad for giving up a lot of home runs. So, the first half of the week, 2 games. Kikuchi and Gausman are at home against the Phillies. Obviously, you're starting Gausman. Honestly, right now, Kikuchi's been so good for so long. Philly does hit lefties pretty well. If I'm in a shallow 12, I might sit Kikuchi if I have a good option. But other than that, you got to roll him. You got to roll him in 15s for sure. He's just been so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kikuchi's been good enough that you should probably roll with him
Yeah.
versus Philly, though that is a pretty scary matchup, especially as they've finally gotten to full strength. Trey Turner is finally turning around. He's hitting 333 this month.
All he needed to do was go to the bottom of the lineup, apparently.
Well, did you see that like this big Phillies talk radio guy said, "Hey,
No.
let's go out and instead of booing Trey Turner, let's go out and cheer for him." So like he got standing ovations at the beginning of the month.
This is so unlike Philly, who's booed fucking Santa Claus.
And he has been absolutely on fire, and he actually paid to have billboards put up thanking the fans of Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
All around town. So, like, I mean, he was clearly, in his own head because he had this massive contract, and all of a sudden he seems to be out of it, and he's Trey Turner again. So,
well, we know Trey Turner is not, he's not lacking in skills. Like, the guy is really good. I was hoping that I was going to be able to buy low next year, maybe get a little second round Trey Turner action, but yeah, maybe not. So then when they go to Cincy, we got Barrios, Bassett, and then Heejin Ryu. Now, Cincy hits righties much better than they hit lefties. I'm still not fucking with Ryu, especially not
no fucking way. Yeah,
no. Chris Bassett at Cincy is probably a sit for me. Honestly, if you can afford to sit him, I would. Barrios is a definite sit for me. Like, Barrios is a guy who can blow up at any moment. So I definitely don't trust him at Cincy. My little cousin, who kind of like, he plays like one fantasy league, like one fantasy baseball league or one fantasy football league. He'll always, not always, but he'll text me occasionally with questions. And he was like, "Hey, here's my pictures. What are you seeing?" And he had Barrios in, and I'm like, "Nope, gotta sit him. Go pick up someone else," because Barrios at Cincy is asking for all the smoke, and you don't want it.
Yeah, completely agree. A guy that tends to be homer prone going to Cincinnati. Yeah. Moving into the AL Central, Chicago, another one of these teams with 5 games this week. They're at the Cubs, and then at the Rockies. Are you starting any Chicago pitchers or Chicago White Sox?
No. Avoid all. I mean, avoid Tukey and Clevenger and Kopech just in general. Avoid all of them all the time. I actually kind of like Jesse Schultens a little bit as like an under the radar play, but not this week. Next week he might be a play, but you pass there. Now, Dylan Cease, I know he's a guy that, you're not thinking you're going to bench. If you got an option, though, I would bench him at Coors.
Yeah, it's so dangerous to start guys at Coors. And it's not like Cease has had very good command and control this year to begin with. So now you add in that your breaking pitches aren't going to break nearly as much the thin air of Coors. I think there's a recipe for disaster there. Unless you really need strikeouts and a win, which he can get, I would be very, very cautious in terms of starting Cease this week. Like, it's only if I am desperate for strikeouts and a win am I starting him. And then Michael Kopech, just don't, unless you're trying. So I'm in a couple dynasty leagues where I'm rebuilding, and I want to torch my ratio. So Michael Kopech is in. So I move down the standings to get a better draft pick.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, Kopech's a hell of a play then,
right? See. You gotta think smart sometimes, Let's move on to your Cleveland Guardians. They're at Cincinnati at the beginning half of the week, and then they get a home series against Detroit.
Yeah. So the main guy who caused me a lot of thought was Logan Allen, because he's on a 2-step. He's at Cincy, and then he's home against Detroit. And I know at Cincy sounds scary, but over the last month, Cincy has a 75 WRC plus versus lefties. They're not good. Cleveland is dead last in the majors with a 50 WRC plus against lefties. Now, granted, obviously he's not facing his own team, but just to give you a little, comparison there, like Cleveland is just so bad. But yeah, Detroit not much better. 87 WRC plus versus lefties over the last month. In deep leagues, I'm rolling with Logan Allen. I just don't have better options to the point where I can't pass up a 2-step. he's not a guy I have a ton of confidence in, but he's also not a guy who usually gets blown up. Like he's not like dominant, but I feel like he knows how to squeak by. And they're just, Cincy and Detroit are not great teams versus lefties where you just got to roll with it, even though it sounds a little scary. Noah Syndergaard, hell no. He's going to get, that over under, Jesus. Cincy could put up like a 9 spot on Noah Syndergaard, easy. And then Xavier Curry at Detroit, no. Xavier Curry is so bad. I'm actually surprised he's still getting starts for us. I thought we'd be bringing up Peyton Battenfield or someone else by now, maybe even Cantillo, but he's still walking too many in the minors. Gavin Williams and Tanner Bybee right now, you're rolling with them, especially against Detroit. But those two they look phenomenal. Man, yeah, just keep starting those two. And for this week, start Logan Allen.
Yeah, I got some pushback on Gavin Williams. Like,
really?
On the chat earlier today. I don't understand.
After the last couple starts?
Yeah, he's been fantastic. Like, the stuff is really legitimately good.
And it's not like he doesn't have the pedigree and the prospect hype to back. Like, this guy has legit great stuff. He was just in the process of putting it together lately.
Yeah, I'm all on board the Gavin Williams train, especially for next year. So, I'm with you on all of that. Let's talk about one of their opponents, which is the Detroit Tigers. They're going to start the week at Minnesota, and then they're going to go to Cleveland. Alex, we learned that I learned how to pronounce his name in between episodes.
I'm waiting.
Nah, I forgot it.
Come on.
Faedo?
Faedo. Yes, sir.
Faedo. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so that's the question. Are we starting Alex Faedo this week? And
I am.
Well, yeah, we both are.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy about it, but look, he's facing Cleveland. I love that matchup, but against Minnesota crushes righties. Oh boy. 122 WRC plus against righties in the last month. That's 4th best in the majors. I don't think people look at Minnesota and think avoid, but with righties, especially like mediocre righties like Faedo, yeah. He does have, I believe, a really good slider. It's just he doesn't have the pieces around it to be effective. Yeah. And so I am worried. But in 15s, like you said, we don't have great options. So I'm rolling with them in more than one place, unfortunately. Is what it is.
I'm right there with you. Pairing him and Zach Littell tomorrow, and it's going to be ugly. So hopefully.
I like Littell. The Littell doesn't scare me. Against your Giants, I'm okay with that.
I've seen enough Zach Littell from his days as a Giant to be.
Okay. All right.
They're very, very hittable. So, which is always scary when a guy is hittable. So, all right. Anybody else in Detroit that you're rolling?
Yeah, Reese Olson against Minnesota is a bench for me. Skubal against Cleveland and Eduardo Rodriguez against Cleveland. Obviously, you're rolling them. Cleveland is the worst in baseball against lefties, and they're rolling literally a minor league lineup right now. So I would throw most anyone against them. Now, Matt Manning is the guy who you asked me about, and I said no. I don't know. He might be okay, though, against Cleveland. It's up in the air, but I personally wouldn't go there, but I don't think it's the worst. It's not the worst stream.
I'm starting Matt Manning in Tout Wars, where I'm in second place, and I'm trying to close the gap on first place. But the 2 places I can close the gap the easiest are wins and strikeouts.
Okay.
And my whip has already kind of been torched, and my ERA is kind of middle of the pack. So, like, I can kind of afford to get torched a little bit if I'm getting a win. Because I'm going for that win and some strikeouts, like I'm literally starting 9 starters in Tout Wars to try to like load up on as many Ks and wins as possible. Leaving Clase and Alexis Diaz on my bench right now. So, in that kind of scenario, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move over to the Kansas City Royals, who can't buy a win, but they got some interesting pitchers.
Yeah, Brady Singer started on Monday against Seattle and did really well. And then he gets He does get the dangerous Cubs on Saturday, but I would have rolled that 2-step. He's been pitching really well. Other than that, it's Cole Reagans. Cole Reagans on Friday gets the Cubs. It's not a great shot at a win. The Cubs will certainly be favored and all that, but Cole Reagans is legit. I love Cole Reagans. I think he's phenomenal stuff. I have him everywhere I could get him. So I'm all in on Cole Reagans, even against the Cubs. It's not the ideal start, but the Cubs also they're not great against lefties either. In the last month, they have a 91 WRC plus, so a little bit below average. I still think that they're a dangerous matchup in Wrigley, especially if the wind's blowing out that day. But you got to roll them. Everyone else there is a no, though. It's a hard pass on Jordan Lyles, Alec Marsh, and whatever Angel Zerpa is.
He's a reliever that shouldn't be starting.
Right.
I'm with you on Reagans and Singer as well. The only thing that pisses me off about the Royals right now is the fact that Brady Singer is just torching people after I dropped him. Like, I mean, just unreal.
He's frustrating known too.
Yeah, he's just and to be quite honest, I don't think much has changed. You look at the profile, like he is still mainly a two-pitch guy.
Right.
I think he's just on a hot streak, and I'm not being suckered back in. Screw you, Brady Singer. Let's finish off the AL Central with Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, Bailey Ober and Kenta Maeda against Detroit's their start against Detroit. They are both starts. Pablo Lopez and Sonny Gray against Pittsburgh. They're both starts. Do we think the Dallas Keuchel, are they going to give that fucker another start?
I think they have to. Like they're pretty thin in the rotation right now.
I mean, they've got Varland in the minors doing pretty well. I'm just saying, I would rather roll Mrs. Salinger than Dallas Keuchel next week.
I mean, I agree with you, but I think they're probably going to roll with them. They've got, a decent lead in the division at 4.5 games. Like, I think they can just go, hey, we're just going to keep rolling with what we got. Like, this is a veteran pitcher. He's a veteran presence, and I mean, he shouldn't be in the major leagues, but
God help us. The Guardians are so bad that their main competition is so confident that they're going to beat them that they're rolling fucking Dallas Keuchel. Oh,
yeah,
God.
Pretty much. So
terrible.
Unreal that a team in the AL Central gets a playoff spot.
It really is. It's real sad.
And every team in the AL East is over 500 right now.
Yep.
All right. Let's move into the AL West, and we will begin with the Houston Astros. I mean, there's pretty much only studs in this rotation outside of Jose Urquidy. Where are you doing here?
Yeah, yes and no. Honestly, if you look into it, you think that these guys are studs, but Christian Javier has not been a stud for a while now.
And Hunter Brown's been struggling as well.
I was going to say Hunter Brown either. And Miami hits righties pretty damn well. I told someone gave me 6 options and I had to pick 4 of them. I chose to bench Javier because I don't have a lot of faith in the guy right now. Even Framber's getting touched up a bit right now, but I would still, even though that start has already happened and he wasn't very good, I definitely would have started Framber in this rotation. And they are in a 6-man rotation right now.
Though I think Hunter Brown is having his start skipped this week.
Well, he got moved from Wednesday to Friday. They said,
okay.
Here's what they said. They said he's available out of the bullpen in the Miami series, but the plan is still to start him on Friday. So I guess it's if they need him, they'll use him as a reliever, and then they'll figure it out on Friday, or he'll start on Friday.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah. Verlander, doesn't look like old Verlander, but he's still good enough. You're going to start him. Hunter Brown against Seattle. Honestly, that could go either way. I honestly probably would have sat Hunter Brown this week if I had a legit option to sit him for. Especially since we don't know that he's going to get a start. Like he might just get relief innings.
Yeah,
But
I think the uncertainty means you probably should sit him if you can.
yeah. If you're in leagues where you're not locked in already, I would sit Hunter Brown and find another option.
Yeah.
JP France, though, is back in the rotation and going against Seattle. And I have to think that this time they're not going to take him out again. Like he's proven that he's one of their best options in that rotation, honestly.
I mean, I agree. I never thought they should put Urquidy back in the rotation.
I agree. Yeah.
But I've also been the anti-Urquidy guy for like years. With people continuously, being like, "No, he's got good stuff. He's gonna figure it out." No, he's not.
No,
just a fucking pitching machine.
The other thing is that kind of like Minnesota, people underrate Seattle. Seattle in the last month has a 120 WRC plus versus righties. That's better than Texas, by the way. You don't want to fuck with Seattle against righties, honestly. Definitely not with Urquidy. So bench the shit. Honestly, you shouldn't own Urquidy is really the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on over to the Angels. We talked yesterday about Shohei Ohtani skipping his start and Griffin Canning moving into a relief role. Anything else we got going on that we got to pay attention to in LA?
Yeah, so Canning was originally going to start Wednesday, but now it looks like it's going to be a Jamie Barria pen game kind of situation. It's also possible they move Detmers up, but I kind of doubt it because he's been struggling. I think the last thing they want to do is not only move him up, but move him up to face Texas. That doesn't make any sense to me. Tampa's struggled versus lefties, so I think they want to save Detmers and Anderson for the Tampa series. I'm definitely not fucking with Texas. Sandoval, Giolito, I'm benching them. I'm benching Detmers. I'm not owning Tyler Anderson anywhere. The only start this week is Chase Silseth, who should start on Sunday against Tampa. Tampa started hot, but they've been pretty cold against as an offense for a while. Over the last month, they've been doing a little bit better, but I'm still not afraid of them. Silseth is good. I would start him, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Oakland, speaking of not being able to buy a win, I think the only person even on this list worth talking about is JP Sears, who, again, can't buy a win, but he's pitched really well.
Yeah, he faces Baltimore, though. I mean, they're not like they're like middle of the pack versus lefties, but I don't really want that start. Like I don't see a win coming out of that. Spencer Watkins looks like he's going to get the start on Tuesday. They sent down Tarnock.
Blackburn against Tarnock went to the IL.
Or IL, yeah, sorry. Blackburn against St. Louis is a pass. Medina against Baltimore is a pass. Waldichuk obviously is a hell no. Even on a 2X, I'm not starting Sears though. Cardinals crush lefties, and then Baltimore, I just don't see him getting a win in either of those games.
Yeah, I think there's so few like outcomes like that make sense for starting Sears because like Oakland just doesn't win games, and so
right
now you're hoping that he's gonna maintain good ratios, so you get some strikeouts with good ratios, and I just can't guarantee that with St. Louis. All right, then moving on to Seattle, Emerson Hancock, a pretty good debut and a really nice start to a two-step.
Yeah, he didn't get a lot of swing and miss there, which concerns me. But his first start is against Kansas City. Now his second start though is against Houston, so it's one of those situations where you're hoping that the Kansas City start is good enough to offset probably a bad start against Houston. I think in deep leagues, I am doing it in one deep league. I know it for sure. In shallow leagues, I'm not messing with that though. I'm not rolling a Hancock two-step in 12 teams, but we don't know what he is yet. We don't know if he doesn't have huge swing and miss stuff. He's probably what Nick Pollock would call a Toby, but he's not bad. I mean, he could be a guy who helps your teams down the stretch here. And, Seattle's a solid team. everything else, like Logan Gilbert's got a 2-step against Kansas City and Houston. You're rolling that. Obviously, Castillo against Kansas City is that's a great start. Same with George Kirby. Bryce Miller against Houston, that's a sit for me. But if you're desperate, I could see you rolling it. Yeah, that's pretty much what I think about Seattle's rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you on Hancock. He's very much in the same kind of mold as Kirby and Logan Gilbert, where he doesn't like have overpowering stuff necessarily, but he's got a lot of pitches that he can use and he mixes them well and pretty good command. So like, maybe you don't get a ton of strikeouts, but I think the ratios are going to be good enough. And I don't think he's necessarily going to get blown up in Houston. I do agree that I would only use him for this 2-step in 15-team leagues. I think 12 teams or shallower is playing a little bit with fire with Houston. So, but hey, another guy who I'm pairing with Alex Faedo or Faedo, and who's the other guy that? Zach Littell. Yeah, this is my day tomorrow. Might be really, really sad.
Well, let's hope not.
I'm hoping not. I'm hoping I'm going to be jumping for joy after tomorrow. I might also be crying. So, last team in the West, the AL West, is the Texas Rangers. Scherzer had a fantastic outing today, but anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, and Scherzer has a 2-step. He gets Milwaukee on Sunday. That's good for him too. John Gray had a real nice start last time out. Now, this time he gets the Angels. It's a little bit more dangerous, but still, like I said, right now, LA has not been good lately. They've 93 WRC plus in the last month against righties. I think I'm rolling with John Gray in most leagues. I'm not the shallow leagues. And then Jordan Montgomery there too. I think you got to roll that as well. You've got such a good shot at wins with that offense behind you that any solid starter, you got to start him. Heaney is a guy I really don't trust, although Milwaukee's not great, but they're good enough to make me kind of I'm not messing with that Heaney start probably unless I'm really desperate. Now, Dane Dunning, on the other hand, I love that start. That's a guy who people have been waiting to fall off a cliff, and the dude just keeps on producing. He's a guy who had a prospect pedigree. He was a guy that a lot of people liked, but he didn't have a good start to his career. I think a lot of people wrote him off, and I think now he's kind of starting to show people, hey, I've still got something here. I'm still a legit starting pitcher.
Yeah, Dunning is a really interesting case because like all the underlying numbers say that he should be an atrocious pitcher, not like regress. He should be atrocious. I also think he's one of those guys though, because he is so much command over control. The projections and underlying ERA estimators don't quite give him enough like credit for what he's able to do. In the same way, like Kyle Hendricks was always the guy like that, like, the projection system said, oh, this is the year. And while he eventually did fall off, like they were wrong for like 7 straight years. So like you don't get to take a W after being wrong for 7 straight years. And I think Dunning is kind of in that same vein. Now,
very similar pitchers.
Yeah. Does that mean
low
that
velo?
Like, does that mean like that Dunning is going to like continue being like, putting up elite ratios? No, like he's gonna regress. Like this is too good, but like I don't know that he falls apart in the way that I think a lot of people have kind of expected him to. So like I don't mind using him here. I also don't mind using Heaney in a 15-team league and like kind of like especially if you need some strikeouts. Like, Milwaukee has not been great versus left-handed pitching this year. And while Heaney can explode at any moment against any team, like he does get strikeouts and Texas does get wins. So I can totally understand like win seeking and strikeout seeking here, but anytime you're pitching Andrew Heaney, it's high risk proposition.
I will say I like the Dunning start a lot better than I like the Heaney start. Milwaukee has actually hit lefties very well in the last month, 115 WRC plus. I would agree with you that I think it's an okay start in a deep league, but Heaney's the only one of the two that I would start, in like a 12-team or shallower.
You mean Dunning is the one you were sorry.
Dunning, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the National League. Start with the Braves.
Yeah, the Braves facing off against the Yankees in the first half of the week. Max Fried is the guy who gets the two-step, and the second half of the two-step is against your Giants, so we love to see that. The Giants can't hit anyone, although I think Yanni Chirinos is going to put that to the test on Saturday because he's real bad. So we'll see if the Giants can't hit Yanni Chirinos, there is no hope for them.
It's amazing they keep winning games too. Like I just don't understand.
Yeah, how is that? They're
not pitching well and they're not hitting well. They're just doing a little bit better than the team they're facing.
Well, they're doing something kind of unprecedented where they really only have two starters and they've got kind of like three like bulk relief / piggyback situations. I mean, they've got between Tristan Beck and I mean even Ross Stripling, he's like kind of a starter, but he's kind of like 4 to 5 innings kind of guy. And they've got Wood, they've got Jake Junis, they got Sean Manaea. They've got all these guys who can give them a few innings. And I feel like if this is successful, this could change the way that baseball works from here on out. Like we could see a lot more of these situations of these teams using these bulk relievers kind of guy. I mean, like this could get real messy in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen like Tampa Bay try this kind of thing, and Tampa Bay is still doing this right now in some regards. This doesn't work long term. Like this works in the short term, but it can't work at the extent that San Francisco is doing it. They're only doing it because they've got so many injuries and just so many guys who are underperforming. But like, yeah, this is not going to be sustainable. And I'm really afraid the Giants are not going to make the playoffs because they were unwilling to go get anybody at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. So anyways, Atlanta, Fried, 2-start, New York Yankees, Giants, easy start. Strider against the Giants, easy start. Yanni Chirinos, don't own him. Morton and Elder. I'll tell you this. I looked at the projected runs from Vegas. Only 4.2 against Elder tomorrow. I was a little shocked by that. I thought that they would be higher from the Yankees. I mean, I know that their team's a shell of what they have been in the past, but honestly, even with Judge alone against a soft tosser like Elder, I thought it would be much higher.
Yeah, I'd take the over on that.
Yeah. So I don't love that start for Elder. Charlie Morton is having some serious control issues lately. But
he still keeps getting away with it.
I know.
Like
I know. Like he walks 7 guys and gives up no runs. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel great about it, but if you're looking for a win, there's no better place to go than Atlanta. So
yeah. I mean, if you're win seeking, like the whole reason I started Chirinos last week was I was win seeking against.
I would never be that desperate.
I wish I hadn't been. I absolutely wish I hadn't been. All right, let's talk about the Miami Marlins. Braxton Garrett had a really nice start. On Monday.
He had he had by results he had a nice start, but he had like 1 strikeout. So I feel like
he got in trouble. He got in trouble a couple times. I watched his start.
I feel like Braxton Garrett got pretty fucking lucky. I sat the shit out of Garrett. There's no way I'm starting Garrett against Houston and the Dodgers. There's no way.
I started him.
Oh, you have. I mean, oh man. Godspeed, brother.
Outside of the 2 bad starts, he's been an elite starting pitcher this year.
Wait. Not lately, he hasn't. We haven't seen that Braxton Garrett in a while, bro.
Like you minus the Colorado start and you minus the
Braves.
The Braves start this
year.
No. And
he was okay. So he gave up 11 runs on May 3rd.
Yep.
Then he gave up 4 runs in 5 innings against Arizona.
Just sort it from.
Hold on. Yeah.
Braves start.
Then he went on a run from May 14th until June 28th, a 6-week run where he was elite. Yes, agree with you completely. Then he gave up 3 runs in 5 2/3 against St. Louis, 3 runs in 5 innings against Philadelphia, 4 runs in 4 2/3 against Baltimore, 6 runs in 3 innings against Colorado. Then he had a good start against Detroit. But then he went back to Philly and they touched him up for 3 runs in 5 innings. And then he was okay against Cincinnati. He gave 2 runs in 6 innings. I'm not saying like you should own him. I'm not saying don't own him, but he's like a streamer plus. He's a guy who you stream.
No.
Okay.
No, he's not a streamer plus.
From July, from the last 6 weeks, he's only had, 3, 3, 4, 6, 0, 3, 2. Those are his earned runs. I mean, like, I'm not saying he's bad, but he's also not great. He's not the guy that we saw from May 14th to June 28th.
I mean, he's got a 355 xFIP during that period that you're highlighting, which I mean, you know, that doesn't give him credit for what he was doing, you know, a little bit prior to that with I'm trying to find his Sierra 362 Sierra. Like even in his struggles, he's been really good. Like he's had 2 really bad starts this year, and that's it. Like, and one of them is really holding back his overall line.
I don't disagree. I think he's good. I just
he's about as close to a must start as can be.
Oh,
like I understand it's a rough 2-step, but
Houston and LA. I mean, Godspeed. You got past the Houston. I don't know, man.
He did fine today. Like, you know,
I mean, he had 1 strikeout, so let's not say like that he was awesome or anything, but he did get past it.
Yeah.
Well,
I started him, like I said.
All right. Good luck to you.
In a 12, I started him.
All right. Hey, so, I would not have done that, but it worked out so far.
What are you doing with Jesus Luzardo, who's been
obviously you're not starting Johnny Cueto. Jesus Luzardo, man. I don't even want to start him against bad teams right now. I definitely am not starting against Houston.
I wouldn't have started him this week, but I've never been a Luzardo guy. You're
not
dropping him or anything, right?
What was that?
Not dropping him even at 12, right?
No, I'm not dropping him, but I definitely didn't start him either.
Okay.
Alcantara and Yuri Perez against the Dodgers. Those are interesting. What do you think?
I did not start Yuri Perez anywhere.
Okay.
Just because it's the Dodgers, and I think he's gonna be fine. I got burnt in the 2-step last week, and I wasn't willing to get burnt a second week in a row. But I think he'll be fine at the end of the day. I just do it
I'm not concerned about. I never think about getting burned. I'm just looking at this as a 1 start. It's the Dodgers, so every mistake is going to be magnified. That's the problem.
If he was going up against virtually any other team,
anybody other than those 3 teams I mentioned, the Dodgers, the Rangers, and the Braves, any other team, I'm fine starting Yuri Perez. I just don't want to start him against the Dodgers. Now, what about Alcantara though?
I would have started Alcantara. I don't have him anywhere, but I would have.
I don't either. Okay, fair enough.
Next team on the docket is the Mets, who have Jose Quintana and Kodai Senga.
Yeah, pretty much.
I wouldn't start anybody else, right?
No. Yeah, you're starting Kodai Senga. I actually like what I'm seeing from Quintana, but man, the Cardinals are a tough start against lefties. They have a 121 WRC plus against lefties in the last month. It's up in the air for me. It would be probably a start in deep leagues. In 12s, I'd probably try to find better.
Yeah, I started Quintana where I had him. He's been good enough.
Oh yeah, he looks good.
Yeah. Let's move on to Philadelphia. We talked a little bit about this on the last episode in terms of them skipping Taiwan Walker, which lets us have Christopher Sanchez in the rotation a little longer.
Yeah, but as we talked about, he's a lefty facing Washington.
Yeah, I'm not super worried about that though. Like, you're not going to get a ton of strikeouts. Like, I think people are like, "Ooh, you got to stream against Washington," but when it's a lefty, I mean, they hit lefties fairly well. But it's also not a team that hits home runs. I'm not super worried about Sanchez getting destroyed or anything. I just don't think it's a very high upside play.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's okay. I just wouldn't target it, but it's fine. Obviously you're starting Wheeler and Nola against Toronto. Definitely starting Lorenzen against Washington. I'm probably sitting Ranger Suarez though against Washington. I don't trust him enough, and they're good enough against lefties that I don't trust that to not go a bad direction there.
If you're trying to protect your whip, I think you sit Suarez.
Yeah, I mean he's a whip killer.
And then and Washington is a whip killer type of team, right? Like especially against lefties, like they just put the ball in play.
Yep.
So I think that can be really dangerous. All right. Anybody else in Washington we care about right now?
From Washington's rotation?
Oh, sorry, Philadelphia.
No,
obviously starting Wheeler and Nola.
Yep.
All right. Let's move on to Washington. You said yesterday you wouldn't start Josiah Gray or Mackenzie Gore in Boston, right?
I was going to say we can go ahead and move right past Washington because there's nobody in this rotation I'm interested in remotely.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, let's move on to Chicago, the Cubs version. We talked about Marcus Stroman in yesterday's episode, so go back and listen to that. And we also talked about Javier Assad. You're obviously starting Steele, and I think we talked about Jameson Taillon too. So I guess the only one to talk about is Hendricks.
Well, pretty much you're starting all Cubs. Any Cubs starting pitching, this is your week, man. You got Hendricks and Stroman going against the White Sox, then you got Steele, Taillon, and I have Assad going Sunday against KC. It's up in the air. We don't know when Assad's going to pitch, if he's going to start even. So that's my personal thought is that he's going to start on Sunday. So all those guys are starts. You're just starting everybody that's a Cub right now. Other than Stroman maybe, because I don't like guys coming off of a layoff, and he was struggling before he was hurt, even before he went on the IL. So I'm not saying I would completely avoid him. If you're in a 15, he might be your best option. I have him in a 15 that I'm struggling with whether I want to start him or not. It's not an option I'd prefer, but it's not the worst option either.
I'm starting him. All right,
your threshold for starting is much lower.
Well, my main event, I'm starting in my auction, which is top 10 overall, but it was either that or Josiah Gray. So
okay, well, yeah, if those are the options, go Stroman,
or Yuri Perez.
Yeah.
All right, let's move over to Cincinnati. Graham Ashcroft. I think you and I talked about this off air last week. Has been unbelievable.
Yeah, really good
since the trade since the All-Star break. Has really helped carry my main event team's pitching staff that's fallen apart. Are you starting him this week versus Cleveland and then Toronto? Both games in Great American Ballpark.
Well, so I don't think he starts because I think that Sunday start is earmarked for Hunter Green. I think that's okay. I think that's the date that they're targeting for him to come back.
Well, that's even better because I'd rather him not start versus Toronto.
In Cincy, yeah. So Toronto's actually been low key real bad lately, and part of that is because Bichette's out, but they couldn't hit the Guardians at all. They had one good offensive game lately, and that's been about it. They've been struggling. But yeah, I mean, Ashcraft against Cleveland is a must start. Andrew Abbott, another must start. Anytime anyone's facing Cleveland, pretty much you're starting them. Against Toronto, Brandon Williamson, Luke Weaver, I'm never rostering those two. And then Hunter Green against Toronto, I don't want his first start back. I want to sit that one out, but hopefully down the stretch he can be good for you guys who own him.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to Milwaukee. They've got the Dodgers. They're at the Dodgers and they're at the Rangers this week.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You're starting your studs, but nobody else, right?
Man, it's tough. I mean, obviously, if you have Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta, Burns gets the Dodgers, Woodruff gets the Rangers, and Peralta gets the Rangers. Yeah, I guess you're starting them, but man, it's painful. You're definitely not fucking with Hauser or Miley against those teams. But
I dropped Hauser.
So. Yeah.
Yeah. Right back to the waiver wire.
That's a hard pass, but Yeah, I definitely think you're starting Burns versus the Dodgers. I don't own these guys anywhere, so I didn't look into it enough. But Woodruff and Peralta are tough starts because against Texas in Texas. Oh, I don't like it. You probably don't have better options though. So I think you probably are rolling with them, but it depends on who else you have.
Yeah, I'm still undecided on whether or not I'm going to start Woodruff in the league. Well, I think I started him in my weekly league, and then I'm going to make a game time decision day of in my daily moves league. So it kind of depends on, it's a head-to-head league, so it kind of depends on where I'm at in the matchup by that point. But
yeah,
it's really scary. I mean, we're talking about one of the best teams in baseball. So
oh yeah.
All right, moving on over to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Is Oviedo the only guy you would start this week? Because Mitch Keller has been garbage.
Well, so Mitch Keller's actually been better lately. But he gets Minnesota though. And we talked about this. Minnesota crushes righties. So if I have a better option, yeah, Justin's going to check my facts here, but
I am going to, because
go look him up. Keller's been better lately. He was garbage for a long time. I would start someone else if I had another option. Obviously, I don't know if Andre Jackson's even going to get the start this week, but even if he is, you don't want any part of that. Quinn Priester, Bailey Falter, no. Oviedo against the Mets, yeah, that's a startable game. It's not something I'm targeting, but I do have Oviedo in some 15s, and I am starting him this week.
I mean, I'd argue that Mitch Keller was okay in his last start, but that was it. He's been garbage for the 6 previous. So, but yeah, Oviedo, I would start if I really like drinking in the afternoon, because he can be great or atrocious depending on start to start, and it doesn't really matter the matchup. This is a really good matchup though, so
yeah,
I am starting him in a league and kind of praying. Even
well, I don't know how. I mean, obviously the Mets are out of it, but they still have some players. I mean, Alonso and Lindor, they're not like the worst offense in the world. I'm not scared from them, but
it's a really good park, to pitch in, and it's not a lineup top to bottom.
I rolled Oviedo. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's not a start I'm excited about.
Yeah, no. Like I said, it's best if you drink in the afternoon. If you're sober like me, then you may want to avoid it. So I didn't, but yeah. All right. Got some comments about, hey, 2 episodes in just 2 hours. There we go. Yeah, appreciate you guys listening. Right, we're an hour into this one, and we're not even halfway through. So
yeah, no, we're gonna have to change up how we do this for the next 3 segments of this one.
So, all right, let's finish out the Central with St. Louis.
Yeah, so
great setup. Oakland and the Mets.
The Mets. Yeah. And would have been great for Mats if he was if he was still there, but he would have gotten the Mets. Yeah, Mats would have gotten the Mets, but looks like it's going to be Zach Thompson instead, and I'm not hopping aboard that train.
No.
Can we talk for a minute about how, Jesus Christ, Adam Wainwright should have retired like 2 years ago. It's so painful to watch him go out there.
If you were getting paid $15 million a year, you'd still be going out there too.
Okay, you say that, and listen, but let's say you have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank already, and you look like absolute dog shit. Let's pretend you have feelings and emotions. I know you don't.
I don't.
Some of us do.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pretend that. Are you going to go out there and keep getting shellacked like this time after time? I mean, this can't be fun for him.
$15 million. Yeah, sure.
It can't be fun though, man.
It's not. Did you not see his post-game interview?
If I'm poor, which I am, 15 million, yeah, I'll take the 15 million. But fuck, if I've got 300 million or whatever the fuck he has in my bank, why am I going to need 15 million more?
All right. I mean, I don't know how much you make at your day job, but if someone offered you $15,000 to get shellacked every 5th day, you'd fucking do it. That's the equivalent.
Publicly? Man,
Publicly,
I don't know.
I would do it 15 grand.
Yeah, but you don't have any like complaints about.
Yeah, I really don't care what people think of me.
You don't give a fuck.
I come on here every week and get shellacked. So like,
I
what the
mean,
fuck
yeah,
do I
like
care?
you don't have feelings. I
Yeah.
feel like for people with feelings, it's a thing, man. Like
And he's a pretty like thin-skinned guy. I don't know if you remember this, but years
that's
ago,
the thing. That's what I'm saying.
he called into Sirius XM to complain about how low he went in a draft.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So I mean, yeah, I don't know if you saw the post-game interview after his last start, but like
No.
he was like distraught. Like he was really, really upset.
He has to be. He's throwing fucking high school batting practice pitches out there. Like he's throwing 80 miles an hour. Like you can't. This doesn't play.
Yeah, I mean he's done after this year. He's just he just finished it.
I know he's just trying to get to 200 wins, but god damn it, what cost?
Yeah. Well, hopefully he's got a good opportunity against Mets. I mean, I've got a DC squad where like I only have 9 healthy pitchers, and I'm rolling them out there. I need wins. That's better than taking a 0. So.
Oh my god! All right, so here's a question for you: are you starting Liberatore against Oakland, coming off of a good start?
I am. I'm coming off of his best start of his career.
But you trust Liberatore because it's one start versus like a dozen garbage starts.
If it was anybody but Oakland, I probably wouldn't. But because it's Oakland, I am.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say that. I would rather face Cleveland than Oakland at this point.
I don't know. Oakland is the worst team ever constructed. I mean, it is like
I don't know.
I honestly
believe worse. That. Offense. We're talking just offense.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but Oakland is so bad. Like, you just have such a good chance. Like, even if you don't have a good start, like, as long as you go 5, you have a chance for a win.
Okay, but how many times has he gone 5?
I mean, he just went 8. So, like,
well, I think right. Outside of that, though.
No, I understand, but like because it's Oakland, I'm going to take the gamble.
Okay, all right. So I like the Miles Michaelis to start Oakland and the Mets. I don't think he did great today, though, did he?
I know they won, but I think they gave up 4. I think the
he gave up 4 runs and 6 in the third. 8 base runners and 6 in the third inning. So not terrible, but not good.
And he got the W, right? Oh no, Romero got the W.
No, he did not get the W.
The bullpen blew it. Well, that's a bummer. Well,
it was still process wise. Starting Michaelis made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on over to the NL West. The Diamondbacks are in Colorado and then in San Diego. I mean, outside of Gallen, are you starting anybody here?
Yeah, I started Merrill Kelly. I don't fear that Rockies offense at all. And Merrill Kelly, low key, is just really good. So he was at Colorado and then at San Diego. Obviously, not your ideal to start, but you still got to roll it.
Like he's got 11 strikeouts today. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. He's just he's a really good pitcher, and you just can't sit him there. Gallen at San Diego is fine. Yeah, I'm good with that. Brandon Pfaadt, no, don't trust him, especially against San Diego. Has too many guys who can hit the ball out of the park.
I will say I wouldn't start Pfaadt this week, but he has looked a lot better since getting back up. So
yeah,
he's a guy I actually just wrote up earlier tonight as you were doing your prep for this as a buy low. I think he is starting to show what a lot of people thought he would be coming into the season.
And this is why you don't write guys off, especially guys who are, I mean, keep in mind, this guy was one of, if not the highest rated pitching prospects coming into the year. Like, I think, who went higher, Pfaadt or Grayson Rodriguez in drafts?
Oh, Grayson Rodriguez did.
Okay. All right. Well, Pfaadt was next then. He was way up there.
Yeah, the problem was we didn't know when Pfaadt was going to be in the rotation, and we knew
that's true.
We knew Grayson was going to be. But
right.
There were a lot of people, including really, really smart, guys who cover prospects. James Anderson, top of the list, who was really high on Pfaadt. I know he struggled, but like I said, he's looked a lot better as of late. And I do think he's a perfect kind of buy low guy for those of you who can still trade in leagues.
I think right now he's a guy who I'm considering as a streamer. Like if he's got good matchups and it's a decent park, you're really trying to avoid teams that hit a lot of home runs and parks that give up a lot of home runs, because that's really Fott's issue. He's not going to walk a lot of guys. He's not going to it's just the home run issue. Outside of that, though, they're starting something called a Slade Secchione tomorrow, or rather today, whenever you're downloading this on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I got nothing there, but you don't want any part of that in Coors. And then Wednesday, we don't know who they're going to start, so we'll find out because Ryan Nelson went to the IL.
I think it's a bullpen game.
It could be, yeah. And then Zach Davies is probably going to return on Sunday, but it is possible that Slade Secchione guy gets a second start too. So I don't know.
You don't want any of that.
Nope, none of that.
All right,
you can skip the next one.
Yeah, we never start Rocky starters. Let's move over to the Dodgers. Unless you were trying to, punt a season in a dynasty league, that's when you stream all your episodes.
Oh man, then start all of the Chris Flexen and Austin Gomber.
I actually traded for Kyle Freeland in a league where I'm trying to get a better draft pick next year.
Oh God.
All right. Dodgers, they're home versus Milwaukee and then home versus Miami.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby Miller gets a 2-step against Milwaukee and Miami. You start that. Clayton Kershaw against Milwaukee, start that. Lance Lynn's looked great since going over to the Dodgers. You start that. Urias against Miami, you start that. I think Gonsolin against Miami is questionable. It's a decent shot to win. You don't think you would?
No, he's been.
I think I would have to be lacking other decent options. I wouldn't love starting Gonsolin, but you have a decent shot at a win there.
Would you rather start Gonsolin or Yuri Perez?
Ooh, Gonsolin against Miami or Yuri Perez against the Dodgers? Man, that's tough.
The fact you have to think about it tells you exactly what you should say, which is don't start Tony Gonsolin.
Well, Yuri Perez is a really good pitcher. I hate the matchup, and like obviously he hasn't been great since returning. But yeah, Gonsolin is just. But Gonsolin's also won 3 in a row. Like that's the thing. You play on the Dodgers, you beat, but Miami's not a terrible team. I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess you go with Yuri.
Yeah, I think I'd go Yuri as well. All right. Then San Diego versus the Giants. Michael Wacha coming back tomorrow.
Yeah, Michael Wacha coming back on a 2-step. That's always – I hate that. Like, I hate when my guys return from a long layoff and they're immediately on a 2-start. So it's like usually you want to sit them for their first start back, but now you have to sit them for a 2-step. It's – man, in 15s, it's really tough to do that. It's Baltimore and Arizona. Like, not bad offenses, but not great offenses. So it's honestly that's a tough call. I don't have to make that call anywhere, thankfully.
I picked him up in a number of leagues, and I'm starting him in all the places I picked him up. So
fair enough.
I'm rolling with it. 2-step. I need those wins. I need the strikeouts, and I'm just praying that he doesn't get just destroyed in one of these games. So. What about obviously starting Blake Snell, you're not starting Rich Hill.
Correct. And then you Darvish on a 2-step, you got to roll with it.
Yeah, and you're not starting Lugo, right?
Lugo, no, I am against Arizona. Yeah, I'm starting Lugo.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, Arizona was really good early in the season. They've fallen off a good amount. And Lugo, honestly, outside of the blow up, he's good.
Yeah. Now let's finish off with my San Francisco Giants.
Your San Francisco Giants, which I never even know who the fuck to put down. Like other than Cobb and Webb, I don't know who the fuck is starting when or starting / pitching / bulk relieving / piggybacking.
You were working on your document all evening to get ready for this episode, and it's wrong. You've got Tristan Beck starting tomorrow or on Tuesday. So I guess today for most people, and he pitched yesterday. I think Sean Manaea is going to be the guy who goes. Here's the question, because I understand if you want to roll with Manaea, but unless he has an opener, I definitely wouldn't roll with him. Then they go to Atlanta. Are you starting Logan Webb in Atlanta? Because I'm not starting Alex Cobb there, right?
Oh, no. Cobb looks like dog shit right now.
And it's Atlanta.
I will say Nick Pollock is telling people to drop Cobb. I disagree with that.
Ooh, wow. I don't think you can do that in a 15.
No,
like,
no.
Maybe in a 12, but even that, man.
I mean, I feel like Nick's audience is probably mostly 12-team leaguers.
Yeah, he caters to 12 teams.
Right, which I get. Even in 12s, I mean, like in Fantrax, which is a 12-team league, my high-stakes Fantrax leagues, I'm holding Cobb. I don't think he's bad. I want no part of him against Atlanta, though. That I cannot do. Logan Webb, though, that's a tough one.
He's been like a top 20 pitcher this year, so it's really.
I know, but like this isn't something I've ever had to worry about because I own no Logan Webb anywhere. So what do you have Logan Webb anywhere?
I have him in a DC, and that's kind of a different beast because it's a 15-team league, and like I told you, I've got like some DCs where I literally have 9 pitchers left. Like that's it. Like there's been so many injuries this year, so I am starting him. But I am scared all to hell.
He's only had one blow up all year, but it was a bad one.
Which means he's due.
I don't prescribe to that.
Yeah, I don't either. But
there is regression for sure. But and it was against Washington too. On July 22nd, 3 weeks ago, he gave up 6 earned runs in an inning and a third to Washington. I don't know what the fuck happened. Yeah, I mean, everybody scored. He literally gave up 6 base runners, and they all scored. So, obviously, there's some bad luck there. But, yeah. The Braves can do that to teams, but I don't know, man. For the vast majority of his starts, he's been, at the very least, serviceable.
I can tell you exactly what happened in that game.
Okay.
So inning a third versus Washington, he faced 10 total batters. He had a BABIP of 667 and a 0 strand rate.
Wow.
He got unlucky. Like Washington, what does Washington do? Like we've already talked about it. All they do is they put the bat on the ball and hope that things work out. And when you have a bad defense behind you, like the Giants have a bad defense behind Logan Webb, sometimes you're going to have games like that. And I think that's what happened. So
I would still start him against Atlanta, assuming unless I have such a good team that I can afford to throw someone in who's still really good, I would do it. But I mean, in deep leagues, I don't think you're going to do much better than Logan Webb, even against Atlanta.
Yeah, I think in 12 you're probably starting him too. So, all right. That is going to wrap up pitching for this week. Do you want to do hitting for this week?
Yeah, let's do hitting for this week, and we'll just do the particularly good matchups and the bad matchups. So we'll ignore the neutrals.
Okay, so let's start with Boston.
Yeah, so Boston they got 6 games, 4 versus righties, 2 versus lefties, and they face Josiah Gray, Mackenzie Gore, Patrick Corbin, and Jahony Brito. On the negative side, they get Garrett Cole, but still pretty good matchups there all around. Now, the problem is that they only get 4 righties. So, you're kind of the guys like Jarren Duran who, are really good versus righties only get 4 games. So it's a little tough there. You want guys who can kind of, and Tristan Casas too. But honestly, right now, I don't think you can bench Tristan Casas. Like the dude is mashing, and he's also they started playing him every day versus lefties as well. He's got 92 WRC plus versus lefties. It's not horrendous, it's not great, but I think you got to play him anyways.
All right, then let's move on to Toronto, which is a bad matchup.
Toronto. Over here. Toronto only gets 5 games this week, so they also face Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. They do get Brandon Williamson and Luke Weaver on the positive side, but 5 games on this slate. There's only 4 teams, 5 teams, 6 teams, 1, 2,
6 teams,
3.
yeah.
Yeah, 6 teams that get 5 games, which is more than usual, but still, when you can avoid those 5s, you want to.
All right, let's talk about Seattle.
Seattle gets Jordan Lyles, Alec Marsh, Angel Zerpa, and Jose Urquidy, and they really don't face any premium pitching this week, and they get 6 righties. So it's really a great week all around, but especially for guys like Dominic Canzone, my boy. I'm waiting for the breakout. I hope he gets 6 games, all 6 against righties. He's actually barreling the ball at a pretty high rate right now, but he plays in Seattle. So, as you know, the ball doesn't go out easily there. Now, granted, he's in KC and KC and Houston, so it's not a huge upgrade for Canzone, but a little bit better than his home park, I'm hoping. Well, not KC, but Houston.
All right. And then the Mets have a pretty good matchups for hitters.
Yeah, the Mets get 7 games against the Cardinals and the Pirates. And they do get the fabled Adam Wainwright matchup there. Quinn Priester, Bailey Falter, Zach Thompson, Dakota Hudson, and they get no good pitching all week. So it's a really good matchups. I actually rolled Mark Vientos in some Fantrax 12s this week because I'm like, look, he's got power. I know he hasn't been great so far, but if ever there's a week to break out, this is it. This is the week to play your Mets. Your Francisco Alvarez. Obviously, you're playing your Alonso and Lindor, but I'm hoping it's a week that they start to break out a bit.
Yeah, it'd be nice, especially if Brandon Nimmo he had a home run on Monday, and I'm hoping he can get a couple more this week.
Yeah, this should be a good week for Brandon Nimmo for sure.
Yeah. Pittsburgh's got some good matchups. You just mentioned one of them.
Yeah. Pittsburgh gets Carrasco, David Peterson, Tyler McGill, and our boy Dallas Keuchel.
Mm-hmm.
Pablo Lopez and Sonny Gray are on the opposite side of the ledger, making it a little bit tougher, but 4 really good matchups. They get 4 righties and 2 lefties. One guy who I've been talking about who was going to break out big time was coming was Brian Reynolds. Like all of the underlying statistics said, it's coming. And it has. And he had a double dong day yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
He's just been money for the last, 2 weeks.
Thank God.
But I know, right? You've been waiting all year. But the other guy who's been coming on strong lately is Brian Hayes. That guy, a lot of people wrote off for dead. He was on the IL. We didn't know when he was coming back. I dropped him in some 15s. Because, honestly, he just wasn't, he wasn't doing anything. I mean, what are you going to do? You get to a point where you need to make some tough calls. And, I mean, I guess I'm wrong. But, that's the thing. Every year, Brian Hayes breaks out for, 2-3 weeks.
He loves August and September. I mean,
yeah.
He loves that. He loves this time of year.
He does.
He is a big fan of the pumpkin spice latte. And so once he gets his pumpkin spice latte, he goes off. I need to write an article about this.
So wait, are you saying that he's a basic bitch?
He is a basic bitch, but he's a basic bitch can hit dingers and steal bases, and not every basic bitch can do that.
Now here's the thing: Brian Hayes is a guy. It's going to be very. He is made of glass. He keeps getting injured. That I don't like about him. But this is a guy with a 94% zone contact rate to go along with a 113 max EV, 49% hard hit rate. He's never barreled the ball really well, but his launch angle has gone from 5.2 to 12.8 from last year to this year. This is a guy who can break out in a big way. When you're looking for guys in the draft who are 5 category contributors who can give you homer, steals, and good average, this is that guy. The problem is he's in a shitty lineup and he can't stay healthy. But if he ever manages to stay healthy, he's really interesting.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. And this is one of the issues we have with the StatCast data is everybody looks at the max exit velocity and average exit velocity, and they go, "Oh, look at a guy like Brian Hayes. All he's got to do is raise his launch angle." there's plenty of guys we've talked about, Yandy Diaz being like the favorite, like of guys who hit the ball hard but can't raise launch. It's a lot easier to hit the ball hard when it's on the ground. Like that's, and you add in the fact that Pittsburgh is the worst park in Major League Baseball to hit home runs out of. Like,
really?
I
didn't know that.
Or at least this year it has been so far. So, or at least the last time I checked, which I think was last week. Like this is I don't think he's ever gonna be like the star that people want him to be. It doesn't mean he can't be a really good player, especially in fantasy. When you've got enough power that plays, you make a ton of in zone contact and you can steal bases. Like, I like Ryan Hayes a lot. I picked him up in a bunch of leagues over the last 2 weeks, and I've been rewarded already.
Here's what I'll say. And maybe you're right, but I think it's too early to say that. The biggest thing for me holding him back is injuries. Like, if he can stay healthy, okay, so three-year tendencies. He went from 57% ground ball rate to 49 to 43. So 3 years of increasing that. Fly ball rate has gone from 25 to 29 to 37.5. Now, is 37.5 great for fly ball rate? It's okay. It's not great, but his launch angle has gone from 2.5 to 5.2 to 12.8. These are all significant changes. His max EV doesn't really matter, except for it kind of gives you an idea of their raw power. Now, yes, a lot of that he hits on the ground, but he can put it in the air too. And the other thing is his pulled rate. So a lot of home run hitters pull the ball, 40, 45, 50%. His pull rate was 24% 2 years ago. Then it went to 27%. Now it's up to 30.5%. He's making strides everywhere. And, I just feel like there's a lot here. I just need him to stay healthy. But I just don't know what the upside is in the Pirates lineup. That's my biggest concern. But I do see the potential for him to be a stud.
I mean, I think the Pirates lineup is just going to get better and better. They'll have a healthy
It
O'Neal
can't get
Cruz.
worse.
Healthy O'Neal Cruz. Dylan Cruz will be around, be up at some point in the probably distant future. That being said, like, I think this is a really good example of like, hey, just double what he's done this year. He's played 85 games. That gets him, almost 700 plate appearances. It would be 16-18. Like, that's really good, but it's not a star. Like, it's not like, I think people think that, hey, at some point he's going to be a star. I don't think that's the case. I think he's going to be a really good player at some point. But
so you think that he's done developing, like this is who he is?
I think he needs to make a bigger change than I'm willing to give him credit for. Is it in the range of outcomes? Sure, absolutely. I'd rather see him hitting the ball hard on the ground than just not hitting the ball hard. But like, it is a lot more difficult than I think fantasy, players give it credit for, to raise the launch angle to, 17 degrees and keep those exits.
Well, I think 12.8 is pretty ideal, isn't it?
No, 12.8 is not ideal. This is why he doesn't have a high barrel percentage.
I mean, 12.8 is doable. 5.2 is not.
Yes, 12.8 is definitely, it's a huge increase, but like, we still need more increase for him to,
I don't think the launch angle is I don't think the launch angle is the issue. I think he just needs to put. I mean, and even looking at his ground ball, line drive, fly ball distribution, I think that's fine. I think he needs to pull the ball more. I think that's his biggest issue. I mean, like the big power hitters, it's like 15 to 17 degrees.
But
like
that assumes he wants to pull the ball. Like,
well, yeah, and maybe not. Yeah,
I don't think he does.
It's possible, but I don't think we've seen his peak, and I think that this is a really interesting profile worth investing in the future.
All right. I don't think he's going to be super expensive moving forward. So I think
I don't think so. Being on Pittsburgh, I think, really keeps his value low.
And the fact that he hasn't, like, he didn't put together a full season this year. Like, even if he stays healthy rest of the way, like, he's going to finish with under 500 plate appearances more than likely. So I think that helps keep the price down. All right, we're really shitty at keeping things moving. So St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah. So they get 7 games, 4 against righties, 3 against lefties. They get guys like Spencer Watkins, Carlos Carrasco, David Peterson, Paul Blackburn, JP Sears. The only really good pitcher they face all week is Cody Senga. So, load up on your St. Louis Cardinals for this week. It's a decent week to start Tyler O'Neill for maybe the first time in a long time. You're probably starting guys like Jordan Walker, Wilson Contreras. Nolan Gorman is tough. He got scratched today with a back injury, and facing 3 lefties is not ideal. It's not a great week for him. Lars Nootbaar, is he starting versus lefties right now? I don't own him.
I think he is, just because he's extremely hot right there.
Yes, he is starting every day. So yeah, start your Lars Nootbaars. And then obviously, you're starting your usual guys, your Goldschmidt, Arenado, Wilson Contreras, those guys, Jordan Walker. But it's a good week should be a good week for offense from the Cards.
Then we've got a Colorado series, so Arizona, should have some good days.
Yeah, Arizona and Colorado are my 2 highest rated offenses for this week. Arizona gets 4 righties and 3 lefties. They face Chris Flexen, Ty Blatch, whatever it is.
Ty Block.
Block? It's Block?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really? Okay.
He was Chris a giant, Flexen, I remember.
Yeah. Ty Block, Austin Gomber, Rich Hill, and then they get Lugo and Waka and Darvish from the Padres. But they have 4 beautiful matchups, including 3 lefties. So, you think of Arizona and lefties, who's the first person that comes to your mind?
Arizona and lefty hitters, or
Arizona who's good at hitting lefties? Just got traded there.
Oh, Tommy Pham, that's right.
Yes, sir.
I kind of forgot he was in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, so Ketel Marte and Christian Walker, who homered today, also rake against lefties. But Tommy Pham is the guy who was readily available in a lot of 12s because, he got hurt and then he kind of didn't do much and they got traded. He kind of missed a lot of games over the last couple of weeks, but he's back. He's playing every day. He did sit yesterday rather, on Monday. But getting Block, Gomber, and Hill, including 2 of those in Coors, I'm expecting a big week from Tommy Pham.
Yeah. Colorado also in Colorado all week, right, which is always really, really nice. So.
And they don't get any tough pitching aside from Merrill Kelly either. They get Slade Sekchoni from Arizona. They get a to be determined from Arizona, which can't be good. They get Michael Kopech, Jesse Schultens, and then Dylan Cease. So they get 5 righties, and then whoever Arizona throws, righty or lefty, probably a righty. So pretty much you're playing your Rockies this week. Tovar was a guy who was actually more available than I would have assumed he would be. I don't know why he was, but picked up a good amount of Tovar this week. And Nolan Jones
went deep on Monday.
What was that?
Tovar went deep on Monday.
Yep, he did. Nolan Jones is a big play this week. I assume he's going to be owned most places, but if he's not, get him in there. And then Ryan McMahon is the other big player against righties, but he's probably owned. He's having a pretty big year this year. So, but if not, get him in there.
There you go. Let's finish up with San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego. It's not like great matchups, but they have 7 games, and they do get like Zach Davies and Brandon Pfaadt, and they don't face any real. They face Grayson Rodriguez, Zach Gallen, and Merrill Kelly, so they face some good pitching, but still in a week where not many teams get 7 games, San Diego getting 7 is good. Now they are going to get a lot of righties, and a lot of their guys who are probably pickups for you, potential pickups for you, are going to be good versus lefties. The only one I really think that stands out is Jake Cronenworth. If he got dropped anywhere, he is on fire right now. So if you can pick up Jake Cronenworth anywhere, get him in there.
There you go. All right. Do you want to cover next week real quick?
Yeah. So what we're going to do for next week is we're just going to highlight a couple of starting pitcher streamers and then briefly touch on now, granted, a lot of this is very tentative, guys. I'm setting this. This is a week in advance, so a lot can and will change between now and then. But I'm just going to give you kind of a brief look ahead. We talked about Cole Irvin being a pickup for last week. Well, assuming he stays in the rotation, they stick with the 6-man. He's going to get Colorado next week, so that's it's another good start. Same with Kyle Gibson.
Yeah, Kyle Gibson as well. Who's next on the list?
We got Clark Schmidt, who's coming off a shellacking on Monday. He gets the Rays next week. They've been struggling offensively. Clark Schmidt's been really good for a while. It's not like I'm not super excited about it, but I think it's a fine stream if you need it in deeper leagues. And then we've got a couple guys who have some 2 starts where 1 start is good and 1 start's questionable. One of those being Aaron Savali next week. He gets Colorado at the front end of the week, but then he gets the Yankees in the back end of the week. The Yankees, I don't think they're really anything to be feared, but they do have some guys who are really good at hitting soft tossers like Savali. You got Stanton and Judge there, so kind of got to be aware of that. But I don't think it's a bad 2-step. You also got Yusei Kikuchi, who gets a 2-start against Baltimore and Cleveland. I love that. Baltimore is a solid offense, but Yusei Kikuchi is really good, and he should dominate Cleveland. Jesse Schultens from the White Sox gets Oakland next week. He's a guy who's, again, not someone who's really great, but he's a guy who you can throw in there as a streamer against Oakland. As you said, they're not good. Cole Reagans gets Oakland as well next week. We've talked about this. He's a guy we're pretty much starting most weeks unless he's facing an absolute elite offense. Get Reagans in there. So obviously versus Oakland. Brady Singer versus Seattle. I kind of talked about how Seattle's really good right now against righties, but man, Brady Singer is just on a roll. It's really hard to sit him right now. So if you've got him, I would just keep rolling with him.
Yeah.
JP. Yeah, you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
JP France gets Detroit next week. He's another guy who's just keeps producing week after week, and being on Houston, he's got a great shot at wins there too. Chase Stilseth gets the Mets next week. Again, love that guy. He's on a roll. The Mets aren't hitting anybody. There's a couple of streams you could do if you're desperate for Oakland. Blackburn and Medina get the Royals. I do like Medina still a bit, but they're both a little volatile, and Kansas City's hitting a little bit better lately. I don't love them, but they're desperation starts. JP Sears and Blackburn then get the White Sox in the second half of the week. So Blackburn gets a KC Chicago White Sox 2-step. It's not something you love to see, but it's about as good as it gets for matchups. Emerson Hancock gets Kansas City next week. I love that. Dane Dunning gets the Minnesota Twins. Again, the Twins hit righties well, but man, Dane Dunning's on such a good run right now. I don't know that you can sit him. What do you think?
Oh man, that's I don't think you can sit him. I think you probably have to roll with it. It just like we talked about with Dunning,
good shot at a win too.
He's got to regress, but at this point, I think you have to just keep rolling with him because that Rangers offense behind him. I think the team is too good, and I think they're going to put up wins even against some of the best teams in baseball. Yeah,
exactly. Bryce Elder gets a nice 2-step next week. He gets the Mets and then your San Francisco Giants. So as bad as he's been lately, I would roll him for that. Going down to the Cubs once again, another great week. The Cubs get Detroit and Pittsburgh next week. So Kyle Hendricks 2-steps versus Detroit and Pittsburgh. Marcus Stroman 2-steps between Detroit and Pittsburgh. Jameson Taillon gets Pittsburgh. Javier Assad gets Pittsburgh. I like all of those, and obviously you're starting, Justin Steele too, but that's obvious. Graham Ashcraft, coming off of a start against Cleveland this week, gets two-step against the Angels and the Diamondbacks. I'm rolling that, especially since those are both not in Great American Small Park. So I love that. And then Wade Miley gets the Twins next week. Now, the Twins, as good as they are against righties, are not good against lefties. All their big boppers, they crush righties, but then lefties, they either sit or they're just don't hit them very well. So I think Miley is a guy who I'm not top tier target, but he's an under the radar guy if you need someone. And then finally, Seth Lugo gets the Miami Marlins next week. If anybody dropped him, I don't know. Some of my 12s people have dropped Lugo, but in general, he's owned everywhere. But if he was dropped, I do like him as a start both this week and next week.
All right. Let's go to the hitting side.
Yeah, so hitting next week is interesting in that there's only one team that has 5 games, and there's no matchups that I see as of right now that are like what I call blue matchups, which are like those elite matchups, like Coors or Great American Ballpark, 7 games, against all really bad pitching. But I'll highlight a couple for you. So I'll start with the bad. There's 2 really bad matchups. First of all, the Brewers. They're the only team in baseball that gets 5 games in the week after this week. And so not only do they get 5 games, but those 5 games are against Bailey Ober, Kenta Maeda, Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, and Michael Wacha. So not great.
It's a brutal stretch right there.
It's brutal. Not only the least amount of games, but also like the most amount of aces that you're facing of any team in baseball. So you're going to want to bench pretty much all your Brewers except for maybe Christian Yelich and maybe Contreras. I don't know, depending on your catching options. I
actually probably would. I mean, well, I guess most people don't have a backup catcher, so I guess not. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in some of my 12s, like there's guys like Fermin and Garver and Yainer Diaz available. I would start any of those guys over Contreras for next week. But you're sitting your Adames, your Frelick, your Santana, Terang, all those guys sit. The other bad matchup is your San Francisco Giants. They get 6 games, but they get Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Michael Lorenzen, Max Fried, Bryce Elder, and then their one reprieve is Yanni Chirino. So, again, just terrible matchups. Sit your Giants. Not that they're hitting the ball anyways right now, so you're really there's not a whole lot of Giants I'd be excited to start right now anyways. By the way, Tyro Estrada since coming back has just been pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, it's only been a few games, so I'm not super worried.
I think he was also hitting way over his head.
Oh, he absolutely was, yeah.
A lot of times when those guys who are hitting over their heads get hurt and then they come back, it's often just not as good as it was before.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right, a couple of the top matchups. There's 5 really good matchups. One of them being the Angels, who get 6 games, 3 against righties, 3 against lefties. They get Brandon Williamson, Carlos Carrasco, David Peterson, and Tyler McGill. So basically, we're looking for guys who can hit lefties a bit there. So there's not a ton of great options. The ones that stand out to me, Luis Rengifo, 148 WRC plus against lefties, and Randall Grichuk, 157 WRC plus against lefties. I'd also start Brandon Drury, but I'm assuming he's probably owned out there. 111 WRC plus, and then obviously you're starting your, Shohei Ohtani's. But anybody else there, I'm not really interested in starting like the guys who hit, like Moniak does not hit lefties well. Moustakas does not hit lefties well. Hunter Renfroe and CJ Cron are kind of on the. I'd probably start Cron. Renfroe is if you have a better option, I would go with that. The Oakland A's get 7 games next week as well. They get 5 against righties, 2 against lefties. So we're looking at the guys on the A's who can hit lefties a little bit, who can hit righties well. JJ Bleday comes to mind. He's got a 114 WRC plus. You're starting Zach Geloff all the time right now. He is just massacring the ball, but he really only hits righties well, but I would start him regardless right now. Kind of under the radar, Seth Brown has a 126 WRC plus versus righties, and Jordan Diaz has a 123 WRC plus as well. So, if you're looking for kind of some cheaper options and you don't have anything better in some deeper leagues, like some 15s, Brown and Diaz are interesting. Seattle, 6 games next week. All six should be against righties. We got Tuki Toussaint, Mike Clevenger, Michael Kopech, Jordan Lyles, and Alec Marsh. And then the 6th starter is Brady Singer. So, again, they really don't face any premium pitching at all. So you're just looking for the guys who hit righties well. And it's the same guys as this week. They got a lot of righties this week as well. It's Dominic Canzone who's going to start versus all righties. And then maybe Cade Marlowe, if he gets starts. The problem is I don't know how they're going to divide up that playing time moving forward. I don't know if he's going to get enough starts. I don't know if you've been paying attention to that at all, Justin.
Marlowe hasn't been overly impressive even when he has gotten the start. So I don't know that he's long for the majors anyway. So
I think you're probably right.
I think that's the bigger question. Whether or not he's in the majors by the time they get to next week, I think is a big question mark.
Yeah, I think this is really these 2 weeks is make or break for Dominic Canzone. I think he's a guy who I was super interested in. He's a really good prospect, and he's facing 13 righties in the next 2 weeks. So I need him to produce over this time. He's a great own right now, but we'll see if he actually comes through. Chicago Cubs, 7 games, 5 of them versus righties, 2 versus lefties. We got Seiya Suzuki making a little bit of a comeback here. He had been benched recently, and then they gave him a little time off, and he's come back kind of strong. I don't know if you've been paying attention to that. I think you said, didn't you pick him up in a league?
I did pick him up in a couple leagues this week.
Yeah.
So I've always believed in Suzuki. I still think that he's going to have a breakout at some point. So just another one of these guys that I think is going to be another, I'm going to go back to the well one more year next year. But if he gets dropped in your league, I think I'm picking him up. Yeah,
agreed. Mike Tauchman, who's kind of fallen off a bit lately, but overall this year he's been in lead against righties. 123 WRC plus. Ian Happ is in a bit of a cold streak over the last week, but he was hot before that, and he's got a 118 WRC plus against righties. Christopher Morel, 135. Obviously, you're starting him. You're starting Bellinger, 139. The other big play is their trade deadline acquisition, Hamer Candelario, 140 WRC plus. He went through an insanely hot streak for a while, and then he kind of fell off a bit, but he's still producing, honestly. And Candelario also low-key runs a good amount too. You wouldn't think you'd be getting any steals from Candelario, but here he is sitting with 17 homers and 7 steals this year. You got to play him in versus anytime he faces 5 righties or more. So great week to play Candelario as well. And then we got Pittsburgh, 7 games, 5 versus righties, 2 versus lefties. Once again, targeting those guys who hit righties well. Jack Swinski is a guy who comes to mind right off the bat, 127 WRC plus. Brian Reynolds is a must start at all times. And then kind of an under the radar pick is Leover Piguero. Now, the problem is that he's one of those all or nothing power guys. He's going to be terrible for average, but if you need a power infusion and middle infield, I think that's the time you start him, because really he's not a guy you want long term. He doesn't walk, he strikes out a ton, but he has. What was that?
I was gonna say, and if and when O'Neal Cruz does come back, he's gonna be out of a job.
Yeah, I don't know if he is gonna come back. I don't know if they have any real reason to bring him back. So
I know he started running last week. So
okay.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know that they have a reason to bring him back other than maybe wanting to see him try to get some innings in before the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Figueroa is not a guy I'm particularly interested in. I think it's a 1 week play kind of situation, and it's only if you're desperate for power from the middle infield position.
There you go.
All
right. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Remind everybody where you can reach on social media and plug anything you got going on.
That would be at RunDMCD on Twitter. And you can find my pitching matchups on rotosource.com as well.
All right. You can reach me on Twitter at Mason FWFB. You can reach me on all the social medias, whether it's Twitch and YouTube, because you want to watch the live streams that we're going to be doing for the Monday, Tuesday episodes, or if it's because you're on Blue Sky or Mastodon or TikTok or whatever. Justin Mason FWFB are all my social media platforms. I'm writing daily at Fangraphs, and I'm writing three times a week on Fantasy Pros. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. For Dave and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.